recording live.
She don't know what she wants to be.
Are you ready?
All the pictures in the magazines, holding hands, but she's mad at me 'cause she don't wanna go, don't wanna go. Hey mama, don't want no drama, just to kiss me before I leave. Hey lady, don't say maybe, you're the one that I can believe. Hey lover, don't want no other finger for my ring.
How we met.
So, how we met.
I just finished up in the military. It was my last day. I just out processed, didn't really have anything going on that day. A buddy of mine named Dan Bartle texted me and he said, hey, my kids are sick. I have tickets to this lecture at the Credo House if you want to go.
So I went there to study, but also they would have lectures and they'd bring in different people to talk about different topics. And on a particular Friday night, they had brought in somebody.
And then after the lecture, my friend Shane came up and we were talking, and then he introduced us to these three pretty girls that were sitting there, one of whom was Emily.
So we just met them kind of casually. But then I went with my girlfriends to go get some gelato and watch Friends. And we came back to Credo House to pick up Noelle's car, probably about 2 or 3 hours after the place had closed. And so we came back and got her car, and it just so happened that right as we were going to do that, Austin and his friends were coming back to pick up a car as well. They'd gone to dinner and left the car at Credo House. And so we all ended up in the parking lot at about the same time.
So she was back with her friend and I was back with Shane and John, and we ended up just talking for about 2 hours. And from that, we kind of started running into each other more often, and eventually added her on Facebook.
Her first date is not exactly the cutest story on her.
I got a text that said, so I just saw a dead body from Emily. Which is a weird text to get from somebody.
I had been driving, I'd been doing a couple of errands, and I had driven past Target, and it turns out that there had been a murder that had just happened in the parking lot, and they had not covered up the body yet.
I called her up, and she answered, and I realized that was the first time we'd actually had a phone conversation. So I got the gist of the details of what had happened, and apparently there had been a murder in the parking lot where she was shopping, and the body was still there. And so we talked for a while, made sure she was okay, and then just kind of talked, and I ended up asking her out. And by the time I asked her out, we'd been talking for about 45 minutes, and I totally had forgotten that the reason I called her was to make sure she was okay after she'd seen a dead body.
So that's how he asked me out. The first date, we went to go get dinner at Upper Crust. Got some pizza, and that was, how I at least at first knew that he was a good guy, because he let me get whatever pizza I wanted, which is not exactly a manly pizza.
And those who know me know I don't do vegetables on pizza, so that was terrible, but it worked out okay.
And then he took me to go see a movie, and we actually ended up at the movie super early, and so we talked for a while there. He told me a little bit about his military history, things like that. And so then we watched the movie, and then afterwards,
I thought it was going pretty well, so I asked her if she wanted to go get coffee, and she said no, because she had a final.
And I felt terrible, but I had a final the next morning, and I was not done studying for it yet. And so I told him that I needed to go home and study for my final. So he took me home, said that he had a really fun time, I'd had a great time too, and so he asked if we could do it again, and I said that I'd love to. So that's the first date.
I don't actually know when I decided it was that I wanted to marry her.
I think I probably knew a little earlier than Austin did that I for sure wanted to marry him. We had conversations about it sometimes, but I kept hinting quite a bit that I was really eager to get engaged.
I know that I took her home to see my parents a over Christmas 2012, and something clicked, and we knew we came back a lot more serious from that than we had left. Things started going pretty well, and I think by May or June we pretty much knew that we wanted to get married, and it was just a matter of when we were going to make that happen.
Probably about a month before we got engaged, I really started looking for it pretty much everywhere. So I just got in the routine of always having my nails done and of making sure that I always liked what I was wearing. The Myriad Gardens were significant to us. We went there on our second date.
As our second date had been a really botched date, but it ended up being a really good one.
We were supposed to go bowling, but the place we were supposed to go to was completely rented out.
So we ended up just going for a walk. Went to Starbucks, grabbed some coffee, and then walked over to the Myriad Gardens. And that was kind of the first time we had a really serious talk, just talked about more interesting things. I knew that I liked her on a deeper level, more than just, your surface level attraction that you have with somebody that you first meet.
We were going to do something on a Friday night, so I sent him a text on Thursday asking what the plan was for Friday. And his response was, do I look like a guy with a plan? Which is, he's not a times-oriented guy. So knew that we were going to do something. We were probably going to go see a movie or something like that evening, but told me that he didn't have a specific plan yet. So then 1 week later, same thing happens. I know we're going to do something on a Friday, so I texted him on Thursday to see if he knew what we were going to do. And he sent me a detailed plan of exactly what we were going to do. So I thought that something might be up. So he came pick me up. He was a little later than he had told me he was going to be. And so when we got to the place where we were supposed to go see the movie, it had conveniently started 20 minutes before we got there, which he had planned. But up until that point, when we were walking up to the movie theater, I was like, oh man, I think we're actually going to see a movie, and now I really don't want to see this movie because I thought we were going to get engaged. And so he acted like he looked it up on his phone and told me that there was one down in Moore at this certain time, and so we had time to go for a walk, and then we would head down there. So I was like, fine, whatever. So we went for a walk, and so as soon as he had said that, I kind of had an idea that we might be back on, that might be getting engaged. So we took a walk down to the Myriad Gardens.
So I took her over to the place where we had our first conversation.
And I kind of had an idea that it might be up, so I kind of positioned myself right where we were whenever we met, or whenever we talked that second date. And he got down on one knee and used my full name.
Told her there that I loved her, that I wanted to live the rest of my life with her, and asked her to be my wife.
And I said yes, and I was very excited. And then he told me that my family and my friends were all waiting for us at a restaurant, so we went there and met up with all of them. So it was a really, really fun evening. What do I love about Austin? I love a lot of things about him.
Things I love about her.
Really just an awesome guy. He is so much fun to be around. We are silly together all the time.
I love her eyes. I think she has the prettiest eyes I've ever seen.
He loves to meet needs, find out what is going on in somebody's life and find out what thing he can do for them right then. I
love the way she loves to serve with 10th grade girls. Really just girls of high school age in general. Just discipleship, Bible study, being a good solid mentor, good solid role model for younger girls. I love that she likes to talk about, things that aren't very superficial. We met at a coffee shop that focused on theology. We share a passion about that. Share a passion over some of the same authors. He still opens and closes every single door for me. I get in trouble if I don't let him open the door for me. He just treats me with such respect. I love the way that he treats his family. I love watching him interact with his siblings. It's really neat to see the way that he is when he's there as an older brother. I love her smile. My mom says that I smile better whenever she's smiling. He treats me so well. I couldn't ask for a better guy.
I put on that white dress for you. I told the preacher man, well, yes, yes I do. And I'll stay and I'll grow great with you. Yeah.